Guardians of the Blade by Adalene Martis. Chapter 14. A New Pride. Therak paced nervously outside the medical bay, his ears twitching at every sound. His massive hands wringing together as muffled groans of pain reached him through the closed door. "Therak!" Nyra's voice called out, strained but firm. He rushed inside to find her propped up on the bed, cushions and blankets arranged for comfort, her brow furrowed, and her furious golden eyes met his. "Stop leaving the room," she insisted. He knelt beside her. "Then tell me what to do," he said gently. "I've never done anything like this before." She managed a small smile despite the pain. "I helped my sister give birth before. We'll get through this together," she said. At the mention of her sister, a memory flashed in Therak's mind, the dark-furred feline among the scavengers he had confronted when Nyra first arrived. She had looked an awful lot like Nyra. Regret and sorrow washed over him, but a sharp gasp from Nyra pulled him back to the present. Her claws dug into the bedding as another contraction hit. "Focus, Therak," she panted. "We need to be ready to receive them," she said. He nodded, pushing aside his turmoil. "What do you need me to do?" he asked. "Warm water and clean cloths," she said between breaths. "And support me when I push." He hurried to gather the supplies, his hands trembling slightly as he fetched a basin of water and the swaddling cloth he'd prepared earlier. Returning to her side, he placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "I'm here," he said softly. Nyra took a deep breath, her ears flattening momentarily as another wave of pain coursed through her. "All right," she whispered. "It's time." Minutes felt like hours as Therak followed her guidance, his eyes wide with concern and awe. Nyra's strength and resilience shone through every moment, her focus unwavering. He watched her intently as she pushed. "I can see the first one," he said, his voice strained yet filled with anticipation. "Get ready to hold them," said Nyra. Therak positioned himself carefully, his large hands gentler than one might expect from a warrior of his stature. With a final push from Nyra, a tiny, squirming cub entered the world. Therak's breath caught as he cradled the small bundle of dark fur. Its eyes closed, a soft, mewling sound escaping its tiny mouth. Instinctively, Therak bent down and chewed the umbilical cord, severing it and stimulating the cub to take his first breath. It's a beautiful boy," he murmured, his eyes glistening. "Keep him warm," Nyra instructed, preparing for the next. He wrapped his cub in a warm cloth and placed him in a cushioned basket nearby. Before he could fully process the miracle he'd just witnessed, Nyra's labored breathing signaled the arrival of the second. "Here comes the next one," she gasped. The process repeated, and soon a second cub was nestled beside the first. Then a third. Therak's amazement grew with each new life, his earlier fears momentarily forgotten. As the fourth cub arrived, Nyra's exhaustion became evident. Therak brushed her fur gently with the back of his hand. "You're incredible," he whispered. She gave a weak chuckle. "I'm not done yet," she said. His eyes widened. "There's more?" he asked. With one final intense effort, Nyra brought their fifth cub into the world, followed shortly by afterbirth, which Therak collected for Nyra. Placenta was nutritious and a traditional meal for all new mothers. Once done, she collapsed back onto the pillows, her breaths heavy but steady. Therak stared in awe at their 5 beautiful cubs and was overwhelmed by emotion. "Crying again?" she asked gently. "Of course," Therak said as his gaze shifted between the tiny beings now resting peacefully. "After all these years, I had given up on having a pride of my own. I've dreamed of this moment so many times, and now it's real, all because of you." Nyra smiled tiredly. "You're welcome, Therak. Can I see them?" Therak lifted the basket with the cubs. She took 2 of them and laid them on her chest. The new lives rooted around on their mother's breasts until they found her nipples and latched. Foam of milk formed on the edge of their lips as they suckled. Tears formed in Therak's eyes as he watched. Then he looked at the other 3 mewling cubs who had been disturbed and were squeaking hungrily. He was flooded with a mixture of joy and disbelief. How are we going to care for all of them?" asked Therak solemnly. "We're a good team. We'll manage," she assured him. Therak sat beside her, the weight of responsibility settling upon him. But instead of fear, he felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. "They're perfect," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "You're perfect." She reached out and took his hand. He squeezed her hand gently. "We're a pride now." A complex look crossed her face before she closed her eyes and nodded, almost as if she was trying to convince herself. Finally she opened her eyes and looked deeply into his. "Yeah, we are," she agreed. As the cubs stirred softly, Therak knew that his life had irrevocably changed. The solitary existence he once led was now filled with new life and new challenges. Looking down at his beautiful mate and his 5 healthy children, Therak's happiness faded as the burden of responsibility began to press down on him. He would be 60 in a few years. He suddenly became acutely aware that he may not live to see his cubs fully grown. And what kind of life had he given them? What would happen if this ship stopped working? Would they be stranded on a hostile planet? Therak's expression grew stern as he realized what he had done and what he must do. "Rest now," he said, adjusting the blankets around her. "I'll watch over all of you." She nodded gratefully, her eyes closing as exhaustion took over. Therak gazed at his family, a profound happiness mixing with his thoughts of all the things that could go wrong.